Good morning, and welcome to the year 2021. I wasn't sure that it would ever get here. How about you? I wish I could say that all things from last year are now behind us, but we still have political division. The month of January could still be the worst month that we've had so far with coronavirus. Racial tensions and issues of equity are still rising to the forefront. Um, and masks will continue to be worn for the foreseeable future. But did we think that we would flip a switch on January 1 and, like the ball dropping in Rockefeller Plaza, everything would change amid confetti and fireworks? No, you probably didn't. My prayer is that we would have a year of less fear. I don't have huge expectations of 2021, but these are the things that I have. I want a year of less fear. I want a year of less hate. I want a year of less division. I want a year of less death. What would 2021 look like if we, like you and me, replaced our fear and our hate and our division and death with courage, love, unity, and healing? What if it were up to you and me to be the trendsetter? Are you up to the challenge? Let me read through that again. What if we replaced fear, hate, division, and death? And you can pick any one of these next ones, okay? I don't care which one, I'm not picky. But what if we, you and me, replaced it with courage, love, unity, and healing? And what if we were the trendsetters? What could God do with us through our obedience? That is an exciting thing to think about. So choose one or choose all four. But see what we can do in those areas, because those are areas that are really lacking this year, or this past year, amid all the other things that are going on. So I want to go ahead and get started with our sermon. That had nothing to do with the sermon. That was all free, by the way. I realize that we spent the last 4 weeks of Advent um, reading from the Gospel of John, but I want to start the new year in John's Gospel as well. I've been thinking about first. First of the year. What are the things that are going to be different? What was it like for the disciples to see some of these firsts? What was it like for the disciples to see the first person physically healed in a touch or a word? What was it like for the first time they saw Jesus take control of nature, making a fig tree wither or calming a storm? What was it like the first time Jesus reached out to the least of these and included a child, a woman, a prostitute, a Samaritan, even a Roman in his plan of redemption? You know, I know those first times would have been excited, but I doubt if it ever became boring for them. Could you imagine them writing a letter home and saying, "Nothing new to report. Jesus fed several thousand people out of a kid's lunchbox today and cast a few demons out of people, but nothing really new or exciting. How are things at home? Maybe tomorrow he will wow us again." No, I imagine the wow never wore off. Speaking of first, I want to talk about Jesus' first reported miracle. Here's the setting. Jesus had just begun to choose his disciples, and he had them tag along to a friend's wedding in in Cana. Sorry about that. Now I am taking liberty with the word friend, but let's just say that the wedding was one that his entire family was invited to. Um, so if you don't want to use a friend's wedding, you can say a neighbor, an extended family. I'm not sure, and I really don't care. Um, he was at a wedding with disciples in tow. That's what we do know. This would have those in charge of keeping the buffet stocked just noticed that the wine was gone long before the crowd was gone. So this would have been a travesty. A wedding without celebratory wine would be like us attending a wedding that ran out of cake. That kind of mistake makes people sorry that they ever got dressed up. You know what I mean? So let's look at the story in John 2 1 through 11. In this account, it starts on the third day. A wedding took place at Cana in Galilee, not China, Cana. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." And he looks and he says, "Mom." No, it says he looks, "Woman, why do you involve me? My hour's not come yet." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever this guy tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each one of those jars holding from 20 to 30 gallons of water. Jesus said to the servants, "Go take those water jars, fill them with water." So they did. It said they took them and they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He didn't realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water did know. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Hey, just so you know, everybody else brings out the choice wine first and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you've saved the best until now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed in his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Okay, so it wasn't casting out demons or bringing someone back from the grave, didn't have all the flash, but it was still an impressive miracle. My question is, what kind of wedding guest list consumes 120 to 180 gallons of wine? Or, if you're from a holiness background, 120 to 180 gallons of Welch's grape juice. The miracle doesn't take much interpretation, but here are 6 things that we can learn from the miracle. Big gatherings. Number 1, big gatherings are not a figment of our imagination. Unlike the last 9 months, people actually used to get together and do things and celebrate events. Soon we will be able to do that again. So that's just 1. Number 2, even Jesus had to do what his mom said, especially in front of guests. Kids, are you listening? Okay, now to the real sermon. 3, Jesus doesn't always do something flashy. We know that his mother and those in charge of the buffet table knew, but the master of ceremonies didn't know what happened. The groom didn't know. If we're always looking for Jesus to do something flashy, looking for a flashy miracle, we will often miss what Jesus is doing in our common lives. Number 4, Jesus uses common people like you and I to help facilitate miracles. He allows us to be part so we can see it firsthand. Think about it. God mentions many nobodies changed to somebodies. There's a teenager named Mary. There's a stuttering guy named Moses. Don't forget little brother David, who was picked as a king. Common Jewish girl Esther, and timid, scaredy cat Gideon. Just to name a few. You get the picture. God uses common people for uncommonly amazing things. Are you ready for your part? Jesus uses common situations. This is number 5. Jesus uses common situations to display his power. This was just a bunch of family and friends and neighbors gathered for a wedding party. What might Jesus do through you at your next common office party, family reunion, work site, or classroom? I remember when the focus was to go out and bring in the lost sheep to the church so we can get them exposed to Jesus and his salvation. Somehow, while singing, "Bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves," on Friend Day at church, we missed the fact that we are the church and that we bring Jesus with us to every common interaction we have. It is the Jesus in us that can miraculously change our neighbors and friends. Sometimes it was like we kept Jesus in a bottle behind the altar of the church. And if we could just get someone up there, the miracle would happen. But Jesus uses common situations to display his power. And finally, the last point, and this is the big one. Jesus uses common, everyday obedience to display his power. I know that Jesus could have done this miracle in many ways. He could have made everyone's wine cup perpetually full. He could have made it rain wine. He could have had it pour out of a rock, but he didn't. It took obedience. He asked some men behind the scenes to fill some large water pots with water. He didn't ask them to do a water to wine ceremonial dance. He didn't have them sacrifice a bull. He simply asked them to fill water pots with water. Simple obedience. Jesus uses our obedience the same way. Yes, sometimes he asks us to do extraordinarily uncommon things, like taking our family to faraway places to reach the unreached. And we have fabulous examples of that within our own church. But more times than not, he simply asks us to have a conversation with somebody we already know. Or he prompts us to give out of our plenty for those who are in need. Whatever it is often a simple, common thing that we already know how to do. We're simply asked to take water pots that we normally fill and fill them with water. And Jesus does the rest. Jesus has a great track record of making the common an uncommon moment. 2021 gives us a new blank slate to work with. We can decide to make changes. So how will Jesus use our obedience to do uncommon things with our common selves, in common places, amid common situations? The key takeaway here is obedience. Obedience is the key to an uncommon year of being used by God to impact the world. We could expect the unexpected. We could expect the uncommon. Oh yeah, and one other lesson. Don't forget, do what your mom tells you, especially in front of company. Welcome to 2021. I am excited as we go through this new year as a church, as a family, to see what God is going to do through us and before us and around us. Well, he turns uncommon situations into common situations into very uncommon miracles. Have a great day.